that feeling and adrenaline, like as a fan, I'm like, man, imagine coming out and performing and just hearing your music, hearing the explosions, hearing the fans go crazy, and then you do it every night. It's easy to know that it's easy to understand how you could battle with your mind and then battle with your body, because you're like, it's a quick pop. You have your match and you're gone. You know what I mean? And you're like, man, I don't perform until the next date, so I got to drive 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, catch a flight to the next place, go through a routine and do it all over again, all just to get to that one moment, you know, depending on where you are on the show, whether you got a significant piece or, you know, or just a regular match, you know?
Yeah.
So, but, man, when you experience that, I think you kind of have an idea of what some of these superstars and former professional wrestlers go through for them to all of a sudden just walk away from that. You know what I mean? I know Natalia Neidhart talked about it a lot when it came to her father, the late great Jim Neidhart Neidhart. She was like, yeah, Daddy just never got over that. Like, he just couldn't. It was difficult. You know what I mean? He couldn't battle his demons. Like, it bothered him. Like, it made him sick. You know what I mean? Not saying that's what made him sick, but he couldn't function with, just like he had to do something in regard to the business. But, you know, mental health is difficult to be. The business is so pressuring. It's so intense. It's so make or break you. It's not for the weak. And sometimes a lot of people fight to get to certain places, and therefore it all come crashing down. Or you get to a certain point and then you have an injury. You know what I mean? It just takes everything away. I could only imagine. I've never been in that situation before. But my heart goes out to performers that have to deal with that, because if you don't have peace in your own home or within yourself or your whatever the thing is, it can be difficult to sit there and walk away from that type of. Some people, that's the only applause you get. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's, you know, I remember Jake the Snake talked about it. Yeah, Jake the Snake had an A&E biography years before it was like a thing. No, it wasn't an A&E biography. It was it A&E or was it it was A&E? I believe it was.
It wasn't his DVD, was it?
No, one of Jake Snake DVD. It was an A. I remember seeing it on TV. I believe I remember, because I remember he had one. I think Andre the Giant had one. This is before they made like the new ones. That's
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
I remember back in the day, it was, you know, those two. Or it was something, because I remember it was an older guy that was going around with Jake the Snake, and, you know, he was talking about, you know, the wrestling, because they talked about his father and all stuff, and he was like, yeah, this is validation. You know what I mean? Like, I was seeking validation all this time. It's like, that's what the business will do to you. It'll have you seeking the applause. For some people, that's the only applause that you ever get. It's like, man, that's tough. We've had mothers and fathers that pat us on the back, and aunties and school teachers, but then some people just don't grow up with that, and then all of a sudden they get a rush of it for such a short amount of time, and then that reaction is predicated, or it's in somebody else's hands, because if you're not booked that week or you get fired or released, it's all gone just that quick.
Exactly.
So it's difficult. I mean, it's a difficult conversation to have. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, because back in my day it was hush hush. You know, that's not. You were considered weak if you were like, I'll just get over it. You got to be tough, and that's just the nature of the beast. But it's like, now the superstars that are eligible to say, yeah, I don't have to take it this morning, they're changing the narrative, and they're the ones that have to do it. They have to be the ones to say, no, we're going to normalize a new normal. We're going to normalize speaking out on these things. People like Kyrie Irving and, you know, and now I guess Naomi Osaka's like, yo, you guys don't own us because we're athletes, and we're not slaves to you because we make a ton of money. This is our job, but at the same time, we're also human beings. And if I have to take time to deal with my mental health because of the pressures of what you guys want from me outside of performing, I'm going to do that. Okay, well, you're going to get fined. So now you got people saying, she goes, okay, well, guess what? I'm not doing it now. So now you guys are losing money because you want to. Yes, that's what you got. Sometimes that's the only language that people understand. Hit them in their pockets. And then you have people going, oh, okay, well, like you have different organizations saying whatever fine she has, we'll pay it, because for her to sit there and be able to recognize that openly as an organization or a foundation, that's something we also agree with. And we want to fully show our support tangibly. You know what I mean?
And for goodness sake, and that's what I've been saying, you know, I've been on my kicking at these debate shows and stuff. Shout out to our professor, Milton Kent, who said this years ago. You know, and everybody thought, oh man, you just hating, whatever, you know. But he said this years ago. He's like, man, that's not like real journalism. And why you gotta beat somebody down? you know, and you see this with some of these wrestling podcasts, you know, and yeah, we'll talk about the product. And what I like what we do here, we're not sitting there beating down performers. We may talk about the storylines we don't like, but we're not saying, oh, well, this person sucks because the way he walks or the way he looks, and they need to get it together. We don't speak at things as fact. That's one thing that I'm gonna put it out there. You said, you know, when we started this, and you know, we're not gonna talk about our opinion, passing it off as a fact, you know, and that's what you see. And you know, it's unfortunate. And I think in pro wrestling, we do need some sort of mental health, and not just because it's the cool thing to do right now, not just having, you know, these companies, they spend millions, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They bring in these experts to teach you how to, you know, have mental wellness, and you use the Calm app, you know, because I've been through these sessions, right? And they tell you this, but do they really say, hey, you know what?
It's okay.
It's okay we want you to take this day. We're going to designate this day, no matter what you got going on, to have a mental health day, you know? And even in wrestling, I've even said the pandemic has kind of showed in certain cases on SmackDown that you could have a wrestling off season. And what I mean is, look at Edge, right? Edge went away after WrestleMania. He'll show up. There's enough talent, especially with them not traveling. If you mix up these storylines,
they released everybody,
and they still got a lot. They still got a lot, you know, that you could mix it up and say, okay, through this 3-month block, we're gonna have you're gonna have this person, that person, this one. Then we're gonna slowly pull them away. You know, after they finish with this program, put somebody else in, and you slowly have off season may not be wrestling. The whole business is not gonna take off season, right? But you can take the characters. Where's Sasha Banks right now? This is her off season. We'll insert her back in the program. And you know, that's what I mean. You know,
but see, hasn't that kind of always been in place though?
No, not really. You know, it's just
if things have gotten that bad, haven't they not given people the opportunity to take time off to get themselves together?
Bingo. You know what? You hit it. They probably given them an opportunity, but people have they written an opportunity.
A lot of these performers won't take it because they know if you out of sight, out of mind. Because if you leave now, there's no guarantee I'm going to write you back into a storyline.
That's the thing. That's the hard part about the business, though, right?
Well, that's the nature of the beast. The business isn't designed for mental health. It's a grind. Like
boom,
you're on tour. Like I said, you can, as a rock star, you can go on tour and do 81 dates in a row. But then once those 88 dates are done, you're finished. You're talking about 300 plus days a year. And some people can't. Half the business can't. Half the business can't function without it. And then you have those other pieces that are just like, I need a break. And it's like that the business isn't built for your mental health. Like it's either you got to be strong enough or you got to be able to find a way to either balance it out for yourself, or it's almost like free enterprise. It's almost like why you can't unionize in professional wrestling. You have to, you can't write into your contract, okay, well, I get 3 weeks paid off mental health days. You know what I mean? You have to say, no, I need time off. I'm not mentally okay. Like Bray Wyatt. We were mad when Bray Wyatt lost. It was the whole ending of WrestleMania. Come to find out, the dirt sheets are saying, oh, whoa, actually, Bray Wyatt was in bad shape mentally because of Jon Huber passing away. You know what I mean? Sudden passing. And he wasn't in good shape mentally, but he got himself together enough to do Mania, and everybody's mad at him, Alexa Bliss and the way.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
That was in the dirt sheets.
Oh, wow. I don't read them.
I mean, like I said, I don't know how valid it was, but that's what everybody. There's nothing to refute it so far. Everybody was mad at why would it do that? Why would Alexa Bliss do what he did? Blah blah blah. They're like, oh well, the word is real is he wanted time off because he mentally wasn't in good shape. Everybody's like, okay, Bray Wyatt came back and did all of a sudden now you're going to Alexa Bliss. That's dumb. WWE buried him. That doesn't make any sense. And it's like only to find out that he requested time off because he really wasn't in good shape mentally. Because he was still dealing with the passing of a close friend, and he mentally wasn't in the space to do it. Because if push comes to shove, what Sasha Banks showed us is they'll walk away. Because Sasha Banks, after her release, when she went through, when she re-broke Paige's neck, that messed her up in the head. On top of everything else she was probably dealing with. She's like, no, I'll just leave. I want my release because it's not worth it anymore. And Vince was a humanitarian enough to say, look, take whatever time you need. Get yourself together, and then when you're ready, we'll come back and we'll figure it out. But we try to paint Vince as this monster, but the wrestlers don't. There's a reason for that. There's two sides. There's a side. name me one successful wrestler that has bad as Vince McMahon said, I was successful, and yet this man didn't do that. I've only known one, which was Jon Moxley. Somebody that was given everything and still walked away and said it wasn't good enough. I don't like the way this is going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many. Everybody else has some sort of sour grapes. I'm like, yeah, but if Vince was still paying you, would you still look at him the same way? You know what I mean? And there's not many. And she was like, I credit everything to Vince McMahon because I was done. Just I was going to wrestle whenever I felt wrestling. I was going to be, Mercedes was going to make a comeback. And he's like, no, we're not letting you go because you're going to something. Take your time to do what you got to deal with, and we'll figure it out when you get back.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like I said, it's hard because we talk about focus groups. Mm-hmm. And Stephanie McMahon, Cody Rhodes, this is what a focus group is.
I was about to say, he trying to be funny because Cody's
a focus group is when you have a bunch of people, because I'm pretty sure, Dwayne, you also took communications research. You probably had a better experience. It's the only communications class I got to see in.
I don't think I took that class.
What? How? You know what? You was in a different program.
I think did you get a BA or BS?
A BA. That communications research I thought had to do with. Well, see, you was in telecom.
Yeah, see that was.
And I was in broadcast integrated media.
Yeah, that was that mix. They were. Yeah, I got out of that one, buddy. Yeah, I got out of that one because I was there and I was like, why are you guys adding all? They're like, oh no, if you're a telecom major, you can finish out your rubric. And I'm like, yeah, because I ain't. Yeah, that wasn't on my list.
You and Christina, y'all had the best curriculum.
I don't know what. Did you come in after we did?
Yeah, I came in 2010.
No, that you know what it was because I was there. No,
you was at Morgan before though.
Yeah, but I wasn't a communications major though. Like I came in straight telecom.
But I think because of I don't know.
Did you come in a year after me? Heck no.
You was there. You remember I wasn't there when you was there during the basketball run. I wasn't there.
No, but I left and came back though. Like I left for a year.
But the fact you was grandfathered in because of your Morgan incoming date. Like the first time you came into Morgan, based on that. That's why.
That makes no sense though, because I wasn't a telecom major when I left though. Like
doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. But that's how they was doing things, because it was like if you had registered like at Morgan State, period, before fall 2010.
Okay, all right.
You was because So
because they reinstated me when I got back instead of processing my transcript, they just reinstated me from where I was when I left, which was dumb. Right. But I'm not going to get into all that.
Yeah, so a focus group is when you bring a bunch of people together of all different backgrounds, strangers and non-strangers, but people who are like consumers of the product and get their thoughts on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure somebody out there probably have a full focus definition. But Stephanie McMahon said wrestling is a focus group because they go out there, they put on a show with fans either cheer or boo, they let you know if they like it or not, right? Right. So with that being said, it's hard to write, and like I said, it would be nice if we could, and that's what I was saying earlier, it would be nice if we could write a storyline for people, and then we write the 3 months off and then write them back in. It's just unfortunate. So sometimes people can get too hot. So like my uncle was telling me this story a couple of weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. Man, what's his name? I'm looking right at him. The dude, superstar Billy Graham, world champion, and said back in the day, Vince McMahon Sr. had on a piece of paper your start date as champion and your end date as champion, and he stuck by it. And he said, "Well, superstar was so hot as the time as champion, but he said." No, he said, all right, I told you this is the day you're going to lose the title. And he's like, but, I think I can kind of keep this going because I'm like, he said in today's world, he would have been a tweener. Like, that's how like good he was. Right. But because of that, because Vince McMahon was a man of his word, James McMahon was a man of his word, he kept that date. And that was the difference. So, like, it's like you said, wrestlers it would be nice if we could write it that way, but they go away, out of sight, out of mind, and that's what makes it difficult. But I'm glad to see wrestlers get their time off. I'm glad to see people like Sasha Banks stepping up and saying, hey, I need this time off. You know what I mean? Who knows? For all we know, she probably did that this time just to keep her mental health, mental fresh.
And then the rumor mills were going, right? Because it was crazy because when she did her, was it 24 Untold?
It was the Untold, and then her conversation with Stone Cold, where she talked about it.
She addressed it in those both. Like she addressed the rumor. Like, usually they don't do all that stuff, but like they address the rumors. Like, oh, this is what they were saying. I was like, oh wow. So it is when there's full transparency when it comes to those type of stories, and they give us that kind of in depth, because it's like the difference between a WWE documentary and an A&E biography. Like A&E biography can go a little bit deeper because it's an A&E product. And it doesn't have to fit the mold of WWE's PG product. They can go a little bit deeper to things that, because technically it's an A&E product with WWE as a conversation versus a WWE product where they may not speak on certain things or they want to go on to certain things because of their demographic and their standards and practices for their own brand. So for her to be as transparent as she was, like, oh, so you addressed the dirt sheets when everybody was saying, like, was she leaving, or she said all this, and she was just like, I was laughing at all of it. Like, it's crazy because they just were making all this stuff up. So it's like you never know, when it comes to these types of things. But it also depends on how valuable of a commodity and the property that you are, not as property as an individual, but as the brand itself. The Sasha Banks brand was way more valuable to Vince McMahon than her deciding I'm going to something I need to leave.
Yeah.
So but like I said, I can't say the same thing for Lio Rush or Humberto Carrillo to say, oh, I'm going through some things, I need some time off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
So
that's true. But hopefully we'll see. Like I said, I just want at the end of the day, I just want to see everybody get the help that they need, because you don't want to see nobody really going through like mental breakdowns. That's a lot, and that does more long-term damage than anything. So like I know, even doing these, there's been a couple times, I'll sit up here and be straight up, like I, realizing later, like, wow, I was going through a depression. I was like, man, look, I ain't doing no shows. I need to step away because it's just too much, and this is,
I do it all the time.
This is for recreation and fun. I can't imagine, like, and I've had to work through it, and to make sure I feed my family. But like, man, you gotta, how it is. You got to power through some things, but it's something that hopefully we'll see coming out of this. I think people saying one thing too, that the pandemic has taught them: go. Like, we want to do something, go. I say that as my wife wants to take 3 trips this year.
Houston, we have a problem. Yes!